right, here we go. OverDrive off and running. TSN 1050 on the TSN app, your home smart speaker. Bryan Hayes, the O-Dog, Jeff O'Neill. There's Frankie Corrado, Noodles, on his way back out to beautiful Edmonton, Alberta to cover Game 6 tomorrow night. Back in his hometown. He may be seeing Strutty tonight. Who knows? We'll see what kind of form he's in for the game tomorrow. But good to see you guys.
Great to be here, boys, and I'd like to stress the importance of getting the job done and winning the cup. I told you about the importance, or maybe lack thereof, of the Eastern Conference Trophy. Hazy, you're well aware of my buddy. He went through some problems, had a big surgery, and he was worried about it. And he said, "Oh, dog, I got to grind like you did in the playoffs." So the next time I went to the hospital and I saw him, I brought the Eastern Conference Trophy. And I said, "I want you to sit this beside you and just think about the grind you got to go through." It's emotional time, you know. He brought it back to me today and got out of his car in 2 pieces and said, "Here's your trophy back."
He broke the trophy?
Dude, what could this guy have possibly been doing with this? Did he have a frat party with the nurses in the hospital? It's in 2 pieces. This is the Eastern Conference Trophy.
You can't do that, man. You
and he was so casual. He was so casual. He goes, "I'm way better now. Here's your trophy." And it was in 2 pieces. He
in
goes,
like a plastic bag. Here, take that. It's yours. I don't want it.
He said, I went to some trophy places, and they just couldn't do it.
That's wild, man.
As you would say, it's a wild scene.
That's a wild scene. For that kind of inspiration, that kind of thought you put into it.
Dude, it was like we were crying. It was like he's like, "I got to grind," and I'm like, "I want you to think about this." I gave him my jersey with the Stanley Cup patch, and I said, "When you first are able to play golf, I want you to tee off with the jersey on, and then you're giving me the jersey back as like a new thing for you. It's over, and you're handing me the jersey back, and the trophy comes back." And I got the trophy in 2 pieces.
Wow. There was no explanation. No, hey, this is what happened. I'm really sorry. I feel bad. It was just, this is what you got now.
No, all he said was, "Here's your trophy." And then we went to lunch and we had a bunch of laughs.
Okay, what about the jersey, though? Everyone's going to want to know. Has he played golf yet? What kind of state will that jersey be in?
We haven't played the first round of golf, and he's saving it. He's going to wear the jersey for the first tee shot. I guarantee you there's something wrong with this thing.
Yeah.
There's a ketchup stain all over the front. He's had dogs with this jersey on. I don't know what he's had with this jersey on. But if I see one thing on it, I will DDT him on the first tee block wherever we're going.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's ignorant. I love Brando. He's a great guy. You can't do that. You can't hand that type of trophy over to someone.
Dude, this wasn't some kind of rinky-dink Quebec Pee-wee trophy.
No,
okay?
That's ignorant. That's a National Hockey League trophy. That's an official piece of NHL history that he really could not care less about. And that's disappointing because it sounds very inspiring.
He did when he first got it, and what he did with it, I don't know, because he was bedridden. Did he get mad at a nurse and throw it at the wall? I don't know what he did with it, but he broke it. Well, he broke it in half.
Maybe he pulled the Bryson DeChambeau move. You see Bryson's cruising down Broadway in Nashville holding the U.S. Open trophy. He's walking into honky tonks in Nashville with the trophy, and it sounds as if this guy basically has free reign to do whatever he wants with this thing. I've always been curious about that. If you win the trophy, is it a replica? Is it the real one? Do you just get to do whatever you want with it for a year?
I think they get it for a year, and then they just have to bring it back the Tuesday before the tournament.
Right. In one piece, though? Or can they pull a Brando and say, hey, I don't know what's going on with this. You got to replace that. That's something I'd be curious to find out. But I saw a video today because Liv is, I guess, in Nashville this week. And DeChambeau's just cruising around Nashville. There's bachelor parties, bachelorette parties. They're stopping. They're getting pictures. He's a man of the people down there.
Say what you want about Bryson, but the turn that he's taken from, kind of a weird guy, I don't know. Now he's like this man of the people. And I wonder if the whole YouTube thing has connected him to this like younger audience where everyone seems to know him. Like, I don't know, a lot of people search this guy's videos out on YouTube, and that might be where he gets more of a following than, well, for sure is where he gets more of a following than anything he does on a week-to-week basis, because no one's watching Live anyways.
Right. Well, and I guess Live tried to take off on YouTube. I believe they were streaming. They may still stream their stuff on YouTube. I don't think it does very well. But you're right. You know, YouTube has supplied this completely different, like, ecosystem of streaming and entertainment and viewing that is separate from conventional media. You know, like TV, radio, you know, everything that has been around forever. YouTube is basically its own world. It's incredibly popular. There's so many videos. There's so many different things that are going on YouTube, where if you can tap into it, you know, it's the algorithms and all that kind of stuff, and you start to get, shares and all that, and people start jumping on board. Yeah, you can gain a massive following with finite numbers, too.
Put it this way. I bet there's a large portion of golf fans who know his YouTube videos but would have no idea what he shoots on a week-to-week basis. And they probably just found out this guy won the U.S. Open, and they're like, oh, yeah, the YouTube guy that I watch he does these cool videos. He actually ended up winning the U.S. Open.
It's a totally different world. Like golf in particular feels different than any other sport that I can think of. But there are, like in hockey at the All-Star game, they were bringing in hockey influencers. I'm not sure how they were labeling them, but basically guys that are making videos on TikTok, guys that are doing stuff on YouTube. And I think even the NHL realized, okay, this is kind of a different breed that maybe we should tap into because people are watching. And the same thing with golf online, where I know, like from our experience, you look at big brands like TaylorMade, like they sponsor YouTube guys. You know what I mean? Like it
our
literally
buddy Matt Boucher.
Yeah, exactly. Perfect example. He's not on tour. He's not playing pro tournaments. He's slinging golf shots around, and it's really cool stuff, and people are into it, and they're tapping into it, and it's valuable if you're TaylorMade, if you're Adidas, if you're whatever it happens to be, and you jump on board. So, I guess Bryson realized that or has picked up on it along the way, and he's kind of killing two birds with one stone because he's got the online thing. He's obviously got the conventional stuff, too. You win the U.S. Open, those would have done massive numbers, conventional media on NBC in the States and TSN up here. So, speaking of which, I mean, the news of the day in pro sports, there's a lot to get to today. We got a lot of people coming on. It's going to be a fun show. But JJ Redick has been officially hired as the head coach of the Lakers.
Oh,
and,
boy.
The most 2024 comment you could make to tee up this story is former podcast host of LeBron James is now his head coach. You talk modern media, there's nothing more modern than what LeBron and JJ were doing on a podcast, on YouTube, Instagram, etc. Now this guy's got to strap on a suit and start calling plays and, run LeBron and the crew through the ringer and get them prepared to try to win.
I'm a big believer in thinking outside the box and just don't recycle that guy that was, a veteran coach and he's been around a while. But this seems, and this guy's a basketball lifer. He was a great shooter in college. He was a great player. But the guy that was on the podcast gets a head coaching job of the LA Lakers, man.
Yeah.
That just seems to be going past one level and straight up to the roof of the next, where it's like, wow.
Well, if you're one of those guys who has been a coach lifer, forget about a basketball lifer, but you've been trying to work your way up the ranks as a coach, whether you've been in the G League and then you started as an assistant and you've kind of paid your dues. You don't have the name recognition, but all of a sudden the podcast media guy goes right to the penthouse, head coach of the Lakers. Don't you look at that and say, what the hell's going on in this industry? Like, why am I paying my dues now and trying to work my way up when, he's got a lot of name value, he's a good player, all that kind of stuff. He's like, there you go. You get the keys.
Well, it's a star-driven league, and JJ Redick is a star in terms of his name. Not how he played the game, but he was a good player. Like, he was a really good player. But in media, he's elevated his profile, through the roof, talking about the modern game and supporting players. And he's obviously a really pro player guy. That's what I'm going to find very interesting here, because you guys can speak to it. when you hang up your skates or your shoes or your helmet or whatever, naturally you're going to fall on the sword, usually instinctively, for the players, right? That's who you are. That's what you were. And that's what JJ Redick has done for years here, is prop up players in the modern game and go at coaches like Doc Rivers. He blasted Doc Rivers, blasted him, and go at management types and go at media. He would pick fights with media and conventional media and go at them and be like, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. I'm a player. I know better than you. Well, you're not that anymore. Now you're the coach.
Yeah, and what's the motivation? You want to blast players? Okay, what is the objective here? When I think of myself in my playing career, I wanted a couple things out of a coach. I wanted leadership, where you're putting something in place where if we followed it, we would have a chance to have success. Pretty simple stuff, right? Like, give me a system, motivate players individually. That, to me, was the coach's job. If a line wasn't going early, and Peter Laviolette was great at this, he would assess after 10 or 15 minutes. If you weren't going, you weren't playing. So motivation, putting something in place where we have success, and tell me something that I don't know. I was a pretty smart player. I was a smart player growing up, and I played with great players who taught me a lot about the game, whether it be defensemen or forwards. But can you show me something that I'm not aware of that might help me, that helps the team? That's what I was looking for. It's not about being best friends. And I kind of think that that's what he has in place, where it's like, you got to support. It's about winning. Mm-hmm. Like, there's only so much. You know what I mean? Everyone says it's a result-oriented It's a result-oriented business. It's not about friendships. Yeah. So how's he going to handle that? You want to go in there and be best buddies with everyone and say, oh, don't worry about that? What if you're getting your ass handed to you every night? Are you still going to be like that? We'll see.
That's what's going to be fascinating here. Like, this will be a fascinating case study with JJ Redick, because he's got no coaching experience. None. Zero coaching experience. He's a very outspoken guy. You got to be careful with that. You're in the belly of the beast, man. You're in L.A. You're the Lakers head coach. Like, media will be all over you. And LeBron may have helped you get the job. He's not going to help you keep it if his legacy's taking a hit, or things are going sideways on him. So, and LeBron's still got to re-sign in L.A., which I think is likely going to happen.
And this guy's no Jason Kidd. And Jason Kidd becoming a coach kind of caught my attention, where I'm like, that doesn't seem like a prototypical coach. Like, he's got so much money, and he was an excellent, like JJ Redick, he was not Jason Kidd as good a player.
No, he was not. Nowhere close.
But it just made me think, like, you don't look like the ideal coach. Like, I don't know why you're doing it. But he turned out, it seems to, by all accounts, he's a pretty damn good coach. Just took his team to the finals.
Yeah, well, exactly. And he's had multiple opportunities, right? Like, he's obviously been in a situation, Jason Kidd, where now he's figured it out. And maybe that's JJ Redick in 10 years, right? I doubt it's with the Lakers, but maybe it works with the Lakers for a few years. He gets some experience. He gets let go, and then he goes to Milwaukee, or he goes to Chicago, or wherever he's going to go. Because, that's also the nature of coaching in 2024, is you're hired to get fired, and generally quick. Monty Williams has been fired twice in 24 months. That guy's a good coach. He's a pretty good coach. And, it's even more explosive, or can be, when you're dealing with LeBron and the Lakers. But he's an interesting guy, and this will be talked about, and people are going to go at him, because he's also had some things to say, like, historically about players, talking about old school players and being disrespectful, quite frankly, talking about Bob Cousy and, back in the day he was playing against firemen and plumbers, or whatever he said it was, like, just completely disrespectful to the way the game used to be played. I think there's a lot of people that they're not as big as fan, JJ Redick, the way he approaches things. But I found him very compelling. He's an interesting guy, the way he did media. He was ESPN's kind of main guy, right? It was him, Doris Burke. What are they going to do?
He knows a lot about the game, man. Like,
yeah, he does.
I don't know if that always just translates to being a great coach. There's so many other things that have to go into that. Are you organized? Can you run practices? Like, do you know how to structure months and all that kind of stuff? Like, I don't know. It's one doesn't necessarily equal the other. And ESPN First Take is going to be all over him right away. Like, you know what I mean? It's not going to be one of those things where you get eased into it.
Yeah, he's a panelist on the show all the time.
I know. And Stephen A is going to rip him the first chance he gets.
Yes, he probably will. He probably will. And that's the nature of the job. And listen, JJ's also making a lot of money to do it, right? He's not working for free in L.A. So more on that later this afternoon. We got Canada, Argentina at Copa America tonight in Atlanta. Atiba Hutchinson later this hour. But yesterday there were deals in the NHL, and probably the biggest deal of the day is seeing Jacob Markstrom head from Calgary to New Jersey for Ball, the defenseman, a first-round pick in the future. And here's the GM of the New Jersey Devils to chat about that deal. Here's Tom Fitzgerald. How you doing, Tom?
Doing great, guys. How are you?
We're doing very well. Thank you for joining us. I know it's a busy time of year. The idea of getting this deal done while the Cup Final is still ongoing, we were discussing that. I mean, take us through the process of the other 30 teams in the league still trying to get work done. Meanwhile, the Oilers and the Panthers are trying to win a Stanley Cup.
Well, I would flip spots any day and start my off-season shopping after the Stanley Cup. That's for sure. But you know what? The rest of us, and even and Kenny Holland, we're always touching each other leading up to the draft. And what are you looking for? What are you trying to do? You're just shopping. Maybe there's a fit somewhere. So you're constantly just keeping up to speed with every team. And with Craig and I, we've been in touch for quite some time, and it really just it came really quick on Tuesday. Sometimes that happens. For us, it was just long conversations, ongoing conversations, and then finally lightning struck, and it was like, okay, here, and we got a deal done.
How important was it, Fitzy, just watching, Bob in Florida, just the importance of goaltending? There's always the option for teams and organizations to get veteran stability guy, but just to get an elite goaltender back there and give you guys a real good quality chance to win every night.
Yeah, well, this is a sour taste in my mouth, to be quite honest here. When I got to New Jersey, Corey Schneider was a lot better than I thought. I didn't know how good he was, and he was carrying that team like we had no business even winning many games back in 15-16. But then injuries took its toll on him, and one thing led to another, and we ended up buying him out. Signed Corey Crawford. He decided, hockey really wasn't in the cards for him anymore. I didn't want to get tired on us before training camp with a young up-and-coming Mackenzie Blackwood, and then the following year went out and got Jonathan Brown. And man, right off the bat, he had some issues that just he couldn't recover from. And next, we're using 7 goalies, and it's been, I got to tell you, I slept really well last night, knowing that I secured that spot. Even going back to the deadline, getting Jake Allen, this was the plan to make sure we had some cap space, the position open. And try to build a tandem that we felt could rival anybody in the league. And I'd like to think we've done that with 2 veteran guys and 2 experienced guys that all they want to do is win. So we're lucky to have both.
Tom, now you've got your goaltenders in place, and obviously that's a big part of what your team needed. How far away are the New Jersey Devils as far as building the team that they see ideal or complete going into next season?
Well, I think we're a couple positions short. I also like to think that, the season we just had, injury prone, some guys having down years, some guys had really good years. But, our goal is to compete for the Stanley Cup and get in the playoffs. And I've got a motivated group, that's for sure. As you guys know, I've got a new coach with a motivated group. But I'd say I'm a good couple positions away, feeling really comfortable that we can compete in the Metro, and then, see where it goes from there.
With Tom Fitzgerald, the GM of the New Jersey Devils, as you mentioned, that new coach being Sheldon Keefe, and by the sounds of it, you moved on Sheldon pretty quickly. When he was let go up here in Toronto, I think, Tree Living said you were calling him within hours. What was it about Sheldon that was so compelling for you, and why was he the right guy for the job?
Well, listen, we're trying to get into the playoffs, and you look at Sheldon's, record during the regular season. It's incredible. A young coach, we're a young team. How he worked with superstars in the league and how he communicates, and again, I just watched from afar, and really thought he's done a great job there the regular season, and I know how much those young players respected him from talking and getting doing my due diligence. I was always open from the get-go on my search that I was going to wait for the first round to see what happens, and lo and behold, he became available, and of course I called, and but it was a really delicate thing. He spent there for 8-9 years. His boys have grown up there, and I know this wasn't something that was going to be easy. So we kind of built a relationship over time, and he felt comfortable enough to take it to the next step, and that was, he came into to New York City, had some dinner with my owner and his wife and my wife, and he just felt comfortable. And so from there, the rest is history. So we're very fortunate. I'm glad I was patient. I'm glad I waited, and we're lucky to have Sheldon.
So now that you have Sheldon in the mix, like when you take a look at your roster, is there a player or maybe a couple players that you really think stand to benefit the most from playing for Sheldon?
Sure. I think, Jack Hughes. I think Nico Hischier. I think Jesper Bratt. You look at the talent that Sheldon has coached in Toronto and how he communicates and how he got the most out of those guys every day. Is something that I think these guys will benefit. But the other part is that, communication is a big part of coaching. I think Sheldon does a great job, and it's not just with those players. It's communicating with, whether it's the fourth line right winger or center or seventh defenseman. Communication for everybody is incredibly important. As far as accountability is concerned, the same thing. It's easy to keep those bottom end guys accountable, but knowing how to communicate to keep those other top guys accountable in their own way, whether it's through video, whether it's, hey, I'm going to call you out in this meeting here, or hey, you know what, you're going to take a seat here. I think he's capable of doing all that.
We're Tom Fitzgerald, GM of the Devils. You referenced or mentioned a couple of questions ago about maybe some other things you're going to want to address or will address the rest of the offseason. We always hear, it's copycat league. Every sport, whoever wins the Cup, the Super Bowl, the World Series, the other teams are looking at what that team has or what that team did, and they're going to try to apply it. Do you abide by that logic? And in other words, are you watching what the Oilers and the Panthers are doing and saying, okay, we need that? Or do you not do that and just go based on your own analysis of what you have?
Well, great question. I think sometimes it looks like a copycat league. But at the end of the day, you have to know who you are and what your strengths are, and we know what our strengths are. And I don't want to take away from that. Just we're a good off the rush team. We're a quick transition, quick attack. So we need defensemen who can move the puck. We need forwards who can get pucks to the net, not just dump in and chase. There's a time and place for that when you got to dump it in. Puck manager, right? But I think knowing who you are and not deviating from your skill and what you do is important. Would I like to build around that? Absolutely. Get a little heavier, get a little edgier, a little more violence would be great. Kind of check off a couple of boxes. But at the end of the day, I don't want to get away from what we do really well. I don't forget 2 years ago when we had 112 points. We were a very good team, quick transition team. We should be able to get back to that. But defending at a net front, defending lines is extremely important. It's an area where we have to get better.
Well, good luck with that. I mean, it's going to be a crazy offseason. You're off to a great start. Obviously, we're big fans of Sheldon, and obviously we're big fans of Markstrom, too. So you got a coach and a goalie to kick things off here.
And violence. We like violence.
And we like violence. Yes, we do support that. We support that as well.
I think that's a Sheldon quote.
Yes, as it should be. Thanks for doing this, Tom. We appreciate it, man. We'll do it again soon.
All right. Thanks, guys. Anytime. Bye.
You got it. Tom Fitzgerald, the GM of the New Jersey Devils, he's working, man. Got a new coach. He's got a new starting goalie. All of a sudden, that tandem, like he said, That's the Boston. Like I was thinking about that today, where Allmark, it's like Allmark's got to go. He's got to go. He's got to go. And that might end up happening. But if you're Boston, the last 2 years, every single game, you have a grade A goaltender in net.
Yeah. What pressure do they have, or like to go to him and say, we really got it? You don't have to do anything.
No.
Like when you have a weapon like that, it's like there's so many games, and people talk about back-to-backs. Back-to-backs, you're chucking in a Vezina winner.
Pretty good. Pretty good.
The only thing is you don't have to move him if you don't want to, but what if you can help yourself down the middle of the ice, right? Like, because all year we talked about how they lost Bergeron and Krejci, and if it feels like you have a redundancy in net, maybe that helps you address something down the middle. That's what I would be looking to do if I was Boston. I don't understand maybe why like Jacob Chikrin's name would be out there for Boston. I think you're good on the back end. You need a centerman.
Yeah, I agree with that. And yeah, if it's an asset, and if it also you're taking $5 million or whatever off the cap, and maybe you're looking at Swayman saying you're ready to start 55, 60 games and be a beast. You're ready to do what Hellebuck does and Bob does, et cetera. That's possible, but I don't think there's a wrong answer there. Like, if you don't move off them and you have that tandem again, you're stacked and you're going to the playoffs. Like, it. If they're healthy, you're going to the playoffs. And I think New Jersey's trending back in that direction too. If you have Markstrom and Jake Allen as your two guys, that's a really good tandem. They were a mess last year, and now all of a sudden we're still in June, and they're looking pretty good. All right, more on that later this afternoon. Mike Rupp will join us. Pierre LeBrun, both from Edmonton, ahead of the game tomorrow night. Ryan Dinwiddie coming up, head coach of the Argos, in just over an hour. And Atiba Hutchinson later this hour, live from Atlanta, Canada, Argentina tonight on TSN. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2. All right, Atiba Hutchinson later in the hour. Canada, Argentina tonight. Best Bets brought to you by FanDuel later this afternoon. On the match tonight. Cannot wait for this. Jay's off tonight. They lost again. They got swept.
Dude, they
Boston,
stink, man. I'm sorry.
They're so tough to watch. Do you know how many? Every single inning, it felt like they left bases loaded last night.
And it seems like a broken record leading from last year, where it's like. And it seems like it's never a guy that climbs the wall and snatches one out of the air. It's a dribbler to short. It's a dribbler to second. And it's like inning. It's painful to watch. It's so painful.
It's so painful. They are such an uninteresting team. It's the worst thing you could say.
Which is shocking, dude, because I can't believe – I've said it since the beginning of the year. You just wheeled out $380 million for that new – Renos for the ballpark, and that's the product you're showing people, man.
Yeah.
It's scary stuff.
The payroll's high now. Like,
the
it's not
payroll's
like the
well
years,
over $200 million. Yeah,
it's not like the years where the payroll was in the bottom third of the league. Like, they're actively trying to spend money and be good, and this is it. Like, it's come to the point with the Jays where I don't even seek it out, and even if it's on, I'm like, what am I watching this for?
Well, you're probably going to watch a loss. And they left 27 runners on base last night. Like they were getting hits. They were, but again, to your point, it's never powerful hits. Like, they don't slug at all. They have no power on this team. But there were a number of guys who racked up, some batting average points last night, but no one can clutch hit. Their lineup is a mishmash every single night. The kid didn't come in. Like, that's the only reason I'm watching. I'm like, put Martinez in. I want to see this kid play.
And I think the pitchers hate the play. Like,
well, Gosman's in a weird place. Like, he got lit up last night, and he's frustrated.
I just think it's affecting them. I just think it's like, I got to go out there and be perfect because these guys can't hit squat.
I think that's a part of the psyche right now. I do. I think it is affecting them. Like, Gosman's in a weird place. Bassett's in a weird place. Those are veteran guys who are very predictable. And
Gosman especially, Hayes. Like, Gosman, when he, like, the last year or so, it's just he goes up to the mound. It's the same approach every time, same facial expressions. But this year it looks a little different for Gosman. Like, he's wearing it more than he ever has.
He is, and he's not pitching as well. Like you do have to be honest with the analysis that he hasn't been that great. He had an injury late in spring. He didn't, he would have got the ball opening day, but I think he got the fourth or fifth start of the season, and he's been catching up ever since. His numbers are bloated. But I think when you compound that with an offensive side of things that just simply never brings anything to the table, and you look at Boston, again, Boston, that's not a great lineup. That's not murderer's row. How many home runs did they just hit over 3 games? Well, they had 9 home runs. Like, it just, Kikuchi gave up 4 on his own.
That's not supposed to be a good team. Like, that's the team that's supposed to be in the basement of the division.
Well, I can tell you who's in the basement of the division. It's the Blue Jays, and I'm not sure how they're going to get out of it. And they're off today. They're in Cleveland tomorrow. But, yeah, it's disappointing. It's tough to watch right now. It's really tough to watch. And yet, you got other things going on with Canada, Argentina tonight. So Atiba Hutchinson will join us. I have my top 5 undercam pants candidates for Game 6 tomorrow night. Okay, so
my God.
I'm going to unveil this probably in the 5 p.m. hour, maybe leading into Mike Rupp, and Rupper can give us an answer. I'm sure that's what he wants to do, is get involved in a bit like this.
So we're doing top 5 underpants cam that you would want to see or have a peek into, or
well, I think we need to we need you maybe to describe or define what this actually means, and then I'm going to give you 5 individuals, a combination of players. There is a coach in there. There's some goalies in there. It's a 5-pack. It's a pressure list that we're going to put our own little spin on.
It's GM.
Okay.
I think if you were into the underpants cam, we're going to give you 5 possibilities where the director, the producer would go right to that shot at certain moments of Game 6.
Right.
Right?
Exactly. With a big budget, like 4K cameras, big budget, and you basically tell us, where are you taking this? You're Spielberg. Where are you putting the cameras?
Chris
How do you
Edwards, Franklin Rubenstein. Go to that underpants cam right now. Go to this one. Go to that one. Go
exactly.
there.
We're in the truck, or you're in the truck, and you're basically directing the whole operation. So we've got that 5-pack. We'll get to that into the 5 p.m. hour. All right, we're going to head down to Atlanta. This is going to be great. Atiba Hutchinson joining us ahead of the Copa America kicking off tonight. And it sounds as if there's going to be about 75,000 people in the stadium, and like 70,000 are going to be from Argentina, which is disappointing because Canada is not that far from Atlanta, and Argentina is like, what is that, a 10-hour flight? Like, it's pretty far away, yet it sounds like Argentina is going to be represented. And I get the impression also, and we'll ask Atiba this, like, how much of it is just Messi fans that are like, all right, I'm an Argentina fan now, but really I'm just a Messi fan, and I want to see this guy play live, especially for his country in a match that he's going to take very seriously. It's a monumental evening for the national team. I mean, there's no other way to put it. Copa America in Atlanta, preparing for the World Cup against Messi in Argentina. It does not get more difficult than that. Yet it doesn't get much cooler than that either. So we'll ask Atiba about that. We'll head down to Atlanta. All right, best bet still to come. We got Ryan Dinwiddie coming up at the Argos. They got the Elks in town on Saturday night. Frankie Corrado's in here. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050N on the TSN app. All right, Overdrive continues, brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. What a night we're going to have down in Atlanta. What a night up on TSN where Canada takes on Argentina. And it is go time for the Copa America. And look who we have here, man. Down in the stadium, there is Atiba Hutchinson. Atiba, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Thank you. Thanks for having me. How are you?
We're doing great.
Atiba, first you got to tell us, we know you were walking with James Duthie today, and somebody yelled something out. It got your attention. Do you know what that was, what that person yelled out?
Oh, I know. It was loud, very loud. They said, Hayes is a fraud. Couldn't believe it.
There's no way that made its way
Dude,
down
I
to
swear
Atlanta.
to God. Atiba, you have to admit that actually happened today.
I promise you it happened. I promise.
That's disappointing, man. That's disappointing. Even down in Atlanta. Well, listen, I guess that means the show is going international, so we're cool with that. It's now, we take that as what, an honor, right? Oh, that's something that we wear as a badge of honor. Hayes is a fraud, making its way down to Copa America.
Duthie sent me a message and said, Atiba was really confused on why the guy was yelling that, so you might want to bring it up.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you did. Okay. Was it a Canada fan at a minimum, or was it an Argentina fan? Can you give us an explanation on that?
Well, I think it was a Canadian fan, so you should be all right.
Okay, I'm cool. It sounds so loud down there. What are they prepping for? Like, is obviously the match is kicking off tonight, but is there some sort of concert that's supposed to happen in the next half an hour? What's going on down there?
It definitely sounds like it. It's it's a party before the game even starts. It's very loud in here, so I can only imagine how it is when the fans are in here and they get going.
It's going to be a fun one tonight, and obviously Argentina is supposed to be well represented. You mentioned you saw at least one Canadian yell out Hayes is a fraud. What kind of Canadian, fan base would you expect in the building tonight? How many Canadians and how much Canadian support do you expect for the game tonight?
I'm hoping there's a good amount of Canadians in here. Probably around 4,000 or 5,000. That would be great to see, all in one section. So hoping to see lots of Canadians in here, but they'll definitely be full of the Argentinian fans everywhere here. So our Canadian fans got to make a lot of noise and be ready for it.
No kid.
Atiba, can you just put it into perspective a little bit? Like Canada as a nation playing soccer, how significant this is that they are going to play Argentina and the defending World Cup champions.
It's such a big step for the Canadian team, for the national team, for the country. It's a second big competition that we're playing in a matter of 2-3 years. So this is huge for Canada. I'm sure all those boys are really excited about this moment. There'll be a lot of nerves involved, but more of the excitement and them just not, excited to just get on the pitch and just put that jersey on and represent the country.
Well, when you're playing a team like Argentina, which obviously has an incredible soccer history, but they also have a guy that is, I wouldn't say he's larger than the game, but he might be on pace with it in Messi. He's real close in terms of what he represents. And how would you suggest, the Canadian side go up against that in terms of Messi in particular and treating him like an equal on the pitch? Like, how difficult can that be when you're talking about a guy that is larger than life in many ways?
It's about full concentration. From the first minute of the game, they've got to be really locked in. They got to make sure that Messi doesn't have the time and space that he would like to have, because it takes one moment for Messi to just have that bit of magic and create something special. So I know the boys will be ready for it, but it's going to be concentration from the very beginning and make sure they're very aggressive on him and not giving him the space in between the lines that he would hope for.
Atiba, you're obviously very familiar with a lot of the players in that dressing room and, such a leader for this program for such a long time. Like, what do you think the conversations are like with some of the younger players as far as what they're going up against and how this night could shake out?
I think a lot of it is about them just going out there and just representing the country and sticking together, playing as a team. They've been working very hard over the last, 1 week of training. They've had two decent games against the Dutch and the French. Maybe not the result that they were looking for in the first game against Holland, but they played very well against France. So a lot of what we've seen them do against France in that game and continue into this game. This is more of a competition, obviously. It's a tournament, so there's a lot more pressure involved, but there's a lot of good players around, and they've been doing a lot of good things as of late, so they're going to just continue that and go out there and just have fun, express themselves, and enjoy the game. It's a big occasion, but it's going to be a great game for them.
With Atiba Hutchinson live from Atlanta ahead of Copa America tonight, Canada, Argentina on TSN. Also, you got a new coach there in Jesse March, who obviously implemented some decent tactics against the French. He's pretty well publicized in terms of his history and what he's done in the past. How would you expect his approach to play out in this tournament? Obviously leading towards 2026 in the World Cup. They know they're going. We know we're going to host. How quickly can a coach of that status make an impact on the way the team plays and maybe getting some results? How quickly do you expect that to happen?
Yeah, it's going to take time. That's obvious. But you've seen in the last two games that the team has kind of improved from the second to the first game. He stresses a lot of the team being very organized and disciplined. And obviously, with the high press is what he really likes. They're obviously going to have to pick the times when they go and put the high pressure on, because obviously they're playing against a quality team that could break them apart. So it's finding that balance. But the boys have shown that they're invested in what they want to do. Collectively, it's going to be important that they stay together and show that fight, that spirit, and a very balanced approach in this game. And then they're going to have the weapons where they can hurt them in the attack, and the counter, the transition is going to be key for them in this game.
So, Atiba, you know what it means to be a leader, to be a captain of this club. Alphonso Davies, I would argue, is now the face of the national program, and he's a young guy, though. Still, he's working his way into all this. He's a great young player, but they're bestowing that honor upon him. Like, lead these guys, whether it's at the Copa America, into the World Cup. What kind of advice would you have for Alphonso in terms of him taking on that position, that leadership role?
You can see that he's ready for the role. He's been very vocal about it. He wants to wear that armband, and he wants to be the leader on the pitch. And obviously, he's got the experience of playing at high levels and winning trophies in different competitions. So he's definitely ready for that role. My advice would be just go out there and be yourself. Be a leader, obviously. Speak as much as you can. He's going to grow into that role as well, and I'm sure he'll do very well at it for many years to come. And it's going to be exciting to just see him out there on the pitch with the armband and taking that real control and bringing the team behind him.
Beyond the pitch, like, we all know kind of what's involved as far as being a leader in the sport you're playing in, on the field or on the ice, but beyond the pitch, like, what does that entail for him as far as the significance of the national program and him having to be the one to kind of lead the way?
Yeah, you're representing the whole country. You're the captain of this team, so it's not just on the pitch what you do, it's also off the pitch and how you carry yourself, and he's been very good at that. He's been a real ambassador for Canada, and he always takes that opportunity to take the call and be here and represent Canada every chance he gets. So he's proven that he's all in for this country, and he just has to continue doing what he's doing. And obviously now, him being the captain, it's a bigger role now, but yeah, he's ready for that. And he'll have to do things like bringing the team together, maybe doing some things outside of the pitch, and just finding ways to make the team, form that relationship and continue to get, closer and closer and be a tight-knit team and family.
Well, it's hours away from go time tonight. Enjoy yourself down there. It sounds like it's electric. It will certainly be electric come kickoff. Enjoy the tournament. Really appreciate you doing this, Atiba. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You got it. Atiba Hutchinson looking good with the TSN mic. I love it. And down there in Atlanta, that stadium's an awesome stadium, too.
What were they doing in there?
It's so loud. You could tell.
Did you hear Sandstorm? They had Sandstorm going.
You guys have done hits like that where you're at a stadium and music's playing. It is so difficult to battle through that because it's so much louder than it even sounds through like our headsets, or if you're at home watching on TV or listening on the radio. It's so loud.
We just did 11 days at the Memorial Cup, and you have like your one earpiece in, and I think I have tinnitus now in my left ear.
Yeah.
Or something. There's some
I just have to tell myself when we're live at the World Juniors or something that my voice is at a normal pitch, like broadcasting pitch, because it seems like when it's going crazy and it's Canada gold medal game and Duthy's asking me a question, I'm like, if I talk normally, can anyone hear this? But you just have to tell yourself that it's just normal and it's going to come through normal, because if you start yelling, you look like an idiot.
Right, and then it overmodulates. The mic gets all screwed
Everything's
up anyway.
a mess. Everything's a mess.
Yeah, it's difficult to concentrate. That's the thing. You're trying to find words, and Darude is just jacked. The whole sound system. And then like the PA announcers in there working on something for some reason.
Darude.
Yeah, like Sandstorm is just like fired up in the background. But
OHL greatest hits right there. There's your number one track.
The track walking onto the ice in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
What, that?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
It still rings out in my head. Like I must have heard every single game, right, Frankie? Like literally every single game.
Let me ask you something. If you're in the car and for some reason you're not listening to sports radio and that song comes on, is it full steam ahead? Just windows down, blasting it.
Absolutely.
No, you
Absolutely.
don't. No,
you have to. It's a good tune. It really is a good song.
That song is on in the radio in the car, and it goes full volume.
Yes.
Has to.
You have to. It's mandatory. All right, so there you go. We got the match coming up tonight, and on FanDuel, needless to say, Canada's a pretty heavy underdog tonight. Pretty heavy underdog, but we'll get to our best bets on that in a couple of hours. Mike Rupp coming up. Ryan Dinwiddie coming up, head coach of the Argos. The Argos were on a bye week in week 2. They won the first week. Obviously, they got Edmonton in town on Saturday night, looking to start 2-0. The Elks are 0-2. Strutty's Elks are not in a good place. I like the Argos on Saturday night. So we'll catch up with the head coach of the Argos into the next hour as well. The Jays are off. They're in Cleveland tomorrow. So we'll start looking ahead to that. Game 6, Cup Final tomorrow night as well. There's a lot to get into today. Frankie Corrado's in here with the O-Dog Jeff O'Neill and Bryan Hayes. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app.